You open an email. Read the first paragraph, then the second. Then you scroll back up and read it again. 20 minutes later, you're still staring at the same message and nothing is processing. Your brain feels foggy. Your chest feels heavy. You quietly hope nobody talks to you today. But here's the strange part. Just 1 year ago, you were the strongest, when your average colleagues gave up. You loved the challenges. You proudly rose above them while staying sharp and energized. So what changed? Let me ask you something. If your life right now was a movie, and people were watching it in a theater, what would they be screaming at the screen for you to do? Or not do? That question, from Chris Williamson, hits people hard for a reason. Because when you step outside your own story, the answer becomes obvious. But when you're inside it, everything feels overwhelming. Especially when your emotional, physical, and mental energy are dysregulated. Burnout rarely starts as a dramatic crash. That only happens when it reaches its peak state, when you ignore the first symptoms. Most engineers and ambitious professionals miss the early warning signs because the signals look like normal stress, but they're not. The first early sign is cognitive friction. Tasks that used to feel simple suddenly require effort. You reread things multiple times. You delay starting work you normally enjoy. Your focus fragments. You assume you're distracted. But what's actually happening is deeper. Your brain's energy system is starting to overload. Engineers are especially vulnerable to this because the job demands constant cognitive switching. Designing, analyzing, solving. And the context changes. Meetings, emails, calls, interruptions, notifications, decisions. Every switch burns mental energy. And if that energy isn't restored, the brain starts slowing down. But the second warning sign is even more dangerous. Emotional detachment. The work that once felt meaningful suddenly feels pointless. You finish something and instead of pride, you feel relief. Sometimes this shift happens after a specific emotional event. Maybe your manager reacted badly to something you built. Maybe a new CEO arrived with a strategy that made months of your work irrelevant. Maybe priorities changed overnight. And suddenly you're asking yourself a quiet question. What's the point? When meaning disappears, effort becomes exhausting. Because humans can push extremely hard, only if they believe it matters. But when the brain starts interpreting work as wasted energy, motivation collapses. Then the third warning sign shows up: irritability and withdrawal. You are easily triggered. Meetings feel unbearable. You take things personally. You feel like you don't want to deal with people. Again, this isn't a personality change. It's survival mode in action. Your nervous system is trying to conserve resources so you can continue to function at a basic level. But here's the thing. You cannot do great work and achieve excellence when you operate from survival mode. Excellence requires curiosity, initiative, creativity, motivation. Survival mode only cares about getting through the day. Now here's where things get tricky. When burnout begins, people start telling themselves stories. And the most common story sounds like this. My manager ruined everything. This company is crazy. This situation is impossible. Sometimes those things are true. But here's the powerful mental shift that changes everything. Is the situation the problem? Or is it my reaction to it? Is this context hurting me and driving me crazy? Or is it the narrative I use to describe it? That sort of objective reflection will help you claim your power back. Because when you believe the entire problem exists outside of you, you lose control. You become the victim of the story. And the brain loves stories. Once it locks into a narrative, it filters everything through it. Every frustration becomes proof that the story is correct. This is how smart people trap themselves inside mental boxes. The box might be, "My company is toxic. I'm stuck. There's nothing I can do about this." But often, the box is invisible. You built it yourself. Now here's the thing. You always have 3 possible roles in your story: the victim, the villain, or the hero. Most burnout stories default to victim. Things happened to me. But heroes ask a different question. What can I do about this? Sometimes the answer is changing your job or your company. Sometimes it's setting boundaries. Sometimes it's redesigning how you work. But the hero mindset unlocks options. And sometimes you need help to see those options. That's where coaching can be powerful. A good coach doesn't magically change your environment. Your company is still your company. Your manager is still your manager. But what they can change is your focus. Instead of focusing on the obstacle, they help you see opportunities around it. Instead of focusing on what you don't have and on what you can't control, they help you see the 90% that's going well and the things you can control to thrive. They help you step outside the mental box you unconsciously built. Sometimes the solution you couldn't see becomes obvious once someone asks the right questions. Now let's talk about prevention. Because burnout is much easier to stop early than to recover from later. The first principle is protecting your mental energy. Most professionals manage time. But although this is important, time isn't the real limit. Energy is. Your brain has peak performance windows. Depending on your chronotype, like early bird, night owl, that's when you should do deep cognitive work. And you can use the rest of the day, when your brain naturally shifts toward lower energy modes, to do other tasks like emails, meetings, and routine activities. When you align work with energy cycles, mental friction drops dramatically. The second prevention strategy is closing mental loops. Open loops drain cognitive power. Unfinished tasks, unclear responsibilities, decisions you keep postponing. Your brain constantly reminds you about them in the background, which creates a feeling of overload even when you're not working. The solution is simple but powerful. Write tasks down. List what information you need to take these decisions. Use systems. Journal about the things that bother you, and release the negative energy attached to it. Once your brain trusts the system, it stops holding everything in working memory. Your focus becomes sharp again. The third prevention strategy is what most ambitious professionals resist: deliberate recovery. Disconnected holidays, not passive distraction, not scrolling, real disengagement. Exercise, calming bath or massage, time outdoors, hobbies, or at least some rest time in the car before you tackle the rest of the day with your partner or kids. These activities allow the brain's default mode network to reset. Ironically, some of your best ideas appear during these moments. Now let's talk about recovery, because sometimes burnout is already deeper than we want to admit. If you barely slept last night, and you arrive at work with a heavy sensation in your chest, and you spend 2 hours staring at the same email unable to process it, that's not just stress. That's a serious signal. In that situation, you should seriously consider speaking to a doctor. Burnout can overlap with anxiety, depression, and nervous system exhaustion. Getting medical guidance early is a smart move. For recovery, the first step is reducing cognitive noise. Too many inputs overload the brain. Constant notifications, endless news, information streams. Temporarily reducing inputs gives your brain space to recalibrate. The second step is rebuilding physical foundations. Sleep, movement, sunlight. These things sound simple, but they regulate the nervous system that powers cognition. A tired brain cannot think clearly, no matter how intelligent you are. The third step is reconnecting with purposeful progress. Burnout often destroys the feeling that your effort matters. So instead of focusing on endless tasks, zoom out. What skills are you developing? What long-term direction excites you? What kind of engineer or professional are you becoming? Progress towards something meaningful restores motivation faster than pure productivity ever will. And remember that question from earlier. If people were watching your life as a movie, what would they scream at the screen for you to do? Quit the environment that drains you? Speak up? Ask for help? Take a break? Redesign your life? Sometimes the answer is obvious when you step outside the story. If you liked this video, subscribe and share your story in the comments section. And if you feel stuck or would like to take your career to the next level, you can book a personalized strategy session where we'll look at your situation and design a clear path forward to turn your dreams into a reality, one step at a time.